This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The frustration for flyers continues. All Air Canada and Rouge flights will remain suspended through Tuesday afternoon, according to the airline. Flight attendants are still on the picket lines, defying back-to-work orders. Their union says it supports them.
If it means folks like me going to jail, then so be it. If it means our union being fined, then so be it.
We are in a situation where literally hundreds of thousands of Canadians and visitors to our country are being disrupted by this action. I urge both parties to resolve this as quickly as possible.
The tribunal that handles employment complaints in federally regulated workplaces says defiance of the back-to-work order is unlawful, but it's not clear what authorities plan to do about it. About 10,000 flight attendants walked off the job Saturday. Their contract expired in March, and their union says members take issue with wages, work rules, and unpaid hours. Now, while the fight between the union and Canada's largest airline continues, travelers are caught in the middle. Many left stranded all over the country and world, some missing important life events, others unable to get home. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has the latest.
Dozens of Air Canada flight attendants were back on the picket line outside Winnipeg's airport. The federal government stepped in Saturday to end the work stoppage just hours after it started, and the flight attendants were ordered back to work. But they're defying the order. On Monday, the Canada Industrial Relations Board deemed the continued strike unlawful.
I don't agree with that CERB ruling, and I know that all unions across Canada have our back. We know that the majority of Canadians have our back, and that's what we're going to fight for.
Some coming from across the globe to Winnipeg for the World Archery Youth Championships are feeling the impact of the strike. Just ask Fairuz Azli and Australia's archery team.
We have another 15 athletes in Australia plus 6 officials, and they were due to fly about 3 days ago and due to arrive 2 days ago. But because of the strike, they've been basically stranded and they have to reorganize their flight.
Some of the Australians are on the way, but some of their teammates aren't going to be able to get to Winnipeg for the competition.
It's all a little bit heartbreaking, because you know how many hours they've put into training and how many little and big sacrifices they've made to be here, and then to know that they're not going to be here at all, it breaks your heart a little, but there's not much we can do.
31 members of the Melos Folk Ensemble were supposed to perform in Colombia. Their travel plans grounded on Friday, hours before they were due to leave. They also worked with their travel agent, but couldn't find an alternate route.
Air Canada says on their cancellation that they've, checked with 120 different airlines to try to rebook you. I'm not absolutely sure that that's happening.
The airline said earlier Monday it's committed to resuming operations as soon as possible. The Winnipeg Airports Authority is asking customers to stay home if their flight is cancelled. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Norwegian hiker has disappeared in northern Manitoba. He was supposed to be traveling with his 2 dogs from the southern end of Hudson Bay all the way to Alaska. But when one dog alone showed up at the next checkpoint, worry set in. Now a search is underway to find the wilderness traveler. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has the latest.
According to the RCMP, Stefan Schottlewick is an experienced Norwegian wilderness traveler. The 29-year-old left Fort Severn, Ontario on July 25th with his 2 dogs and was walking along the shore of the Hudson Bay towards Manitoba. RCMP say he was last heard from on August 14, letting people know his arrival time in York Factory on August 15. One of his dogs showed up in the northern community without Schottlewick. RCMP says due to the difficult terrain, local guides know the land best and are searching by helicopter, boat and with drones for the missing hiker. The lead searcher, Angus Miles from Fort Severn, gave an update on social media Monday afternoon. He says the search started at the Nanak Polar Bear Lodge by chopper. He says they found tracks in a small skinny tree line and a wet area they think belonged to Schottlewick. They followed the tracks towards York Factory. He says they ended in a bog area and they did not see any more signs of footprints. Miles says the other dog showed up in Fort Severn. RCMP said Chortlewick was trekking through very difficult and dangerous terrain populated by polar bears and wolves. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
RSV is a highly contagious illness that can lead to hospitalizations for young children. But what is Manitoba doing to protect infants against the respiratory virus? As CBC's Felicia Adam reports, the province is falling behind in meeting national recommendations.
Manitoba will be making changes to its RSV immunization program. This fall, the province will move to a newer, more effective single-dose antibody called nirsevimab, catching up to the majority of Canada. But the preventative shots will remain for high-risk children only, with no plans yet to make the program universal.
Kiss. Aw, she's a good girl.
It was 3 years ago, but Samantha Gould still remembers how scary it was.
I hear the machines go off, but mainly when I close my eyes to go to sleep, I hear her screaming, "Mommy."
Her daughter Isabel was diagnosed with RSV when she was 2. Her symptoms so severe, she was hospitalized for a week, hooked up to an oxygen machine.
I'm very surprised that she made it through. You want the right one?
Gould believes Isabel might not have had such severe symptoms if she was able to get the preventative shot, an option she was never offered.
If it's a simple cold that can turn into literally a life or death situation, I think parents would want to have their kid maybe vaccinated.
All infants are currently able to get the preventative shot in Ontario, Quebec, and Nunavut. This fall, Nova Scotia and the Yukon will follow their lead. In the Northwest Territories, babies born in and around RSV season get the shot. This fall, Saskatchewan will start giving it to all infants born during RSV season. As for the rest of the country, including Manitoba, it'll only be for high-risk young children.
Regardless if they are at a higher risk of developing a severe disease or if they are healthy babies, all infants, all babies should get this shot.
Barbara Porto has been researching RSV for 15 years. She's a professor in viral respiratory diseases at the University of Manitoba. She says all young children will catch the virus by the age of 3, but there's no way of knowing who will become severely ill.
By giving nirsevimab only to high-risk infants, our healthcare system will keep seeing a lot of babies and infants being hospitalized. This will keep costing a huge burden to our healthcare system.
It's been more than a year since Canada's National Advisory Committee on Immunizations recommended that provinces and territories move towards a universal program. But it seems Manitoba is still not meeting those recommendations. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Staff from the Winnipeg Humane Society were kicked out of an agricultural fair this weekend. It happened in Grunthal on Saturday. The Humane Society had a display with a papier-mâché pig and human-sized cages for people to step inside to see what it's like for confined pigs. The display was up for just a few hours before the Ag Society asked them to leave. The Humane Society says the display is part of a summer campaign to raise awareness about gestation crates, which they say roughly half of Manitoba pork producers still use.
This is not an urban-rural divide on values or issues. I think that compassion and empathy exists no matter whether you live in Winnipeg or whether you live in rural Manitoba. And so we just want to bring these issues to the forefront and make sure that, we're having that dialogue.
In a statement, the Hanover Ag Society says it gave the Humane Society space because it assumed they'd be raising awareness about animal adoption. According to the National Farmed Animal Care Council, gestation crates were supposed to be phased out by July 1st of 2024 in favor of group pens. That deadline has been pushed back to 2029. Let's bring in weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And Riley, some much needed rain this weekend for many parts.
Yeah, nice little soaking throughout parts of southern Manitoba. In some cases, actually a lot of rain. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Some leftover cloud cover from some of that today, holding us back slightly temperature-wise. So we have started to see a few breaks in some of this cloud cover as we've gotten throughout the afternoon. So more of a sunnier sky, say into places like Brandon, where we've seen a few holes in that cloud starting to develop here in the Red River Valley. But look at what that's done to our temperatures. So high temperatures, 26 in Swan River, 25s in southwestern Manitoba, where it's been sunnier, but where we've been under this cloud cover, 19 in Gimli, 20 in Pinois, 17 degrees in Thompson through the afternoon. So you can start to see some of the holes in some of that cloud cover as we get into the evening hours here. As we get into the day on Tuesday, do expect a bit of a brighter day, maybe a few fog patches in the morning and much warmer. 26 degrees into the afternoon, Brittany. We'll talk about the rain and the potential for some more thunderstorm activity later in this week when I come back.
All right, summer storms, we like it. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, she never imagined her dog could start a fire twice. The warning one Winnipeg woman has for others. That's coming up straight ahead. A Winnipeg pet owner wants to warn the public about a fire that her dog ignited in the kitchen with her stove. The knobs of the Samsung oven are mounted on the front of the appliance. It's subject to a safety recall because the range can be accidentally turned on if someone or something bumps into them. Virulin Kubanek reports.
This home security video from Colorado Springs last year shows what happened when a dog put its paws on the front knobs of a stove. Minutes later, boxes placed on the stove elements ignite, and it doesn't take long for fire to take hold. Here in Winnipeg, a similar story happened to Michelle Burkowski. As part of a kitchen renovation, she had a Samsung range, fridge, and microwave installed at her home last year. She says she was initially very pleased with the appliances. But a year later, in May 2025, she was out at lunch and later came home to find the house filled with smoke and a fire burning on the range.
So I ran into the kitchen to check on the dog, and that's when I noticed that there was a book on fire on top of the stove. And of course, I shouldn't have left the book on the stove. I do understand that, but...
She put the fire out and made sure her dog Buster was all right. She never imagined a dog could start a fire on the stove when she wasn't home. She wants to warn the public about it and says she didn't find out there was a safety recall issued for her appliance until after the fire. There are safety recalls for her Samsung electric range in Canada and the United States. The Health Canada recall says humans and pets can accidentally activate the front-mounted knobs on the ranges, posing a fire hazard. Samsung is providing covers or locks for the knobs on the recalled appliances to prevent accidentally activating the range. After the stove fire, Burkowski says she removed the knobs from her Samsung range to avoid the dog accidentally turning the elements on. But then there was a second fire a month later while Burkowski was away at work. She believes the dog somehow activated the oven switch.
In my head, he shouldn't be able to turn an oven on in that way, just by jumping on it. And if he can do that, then certainly a kid can. Yeah, and that's the danger of it.
She says she had left some dry goods in the oven to keep them away from the dog.
And I get it. I understand. I shouldn't have done that in hindsight.
Samsung issued a statement about the recall advising consumers to keep children and pets away from the range knobs. And when no one is cooking, never place, leave, or store anything on the top of your range. Virulin Kubanek, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Progressive Conservative candidate in the Spruce Woods by-election is apologizing for a comment she made about unions. Colleen Robbins is running for the PCs, where a by-election is taking place to replace former PC MLA Grant Jackson. In 2020, Robbins said on Twitter that she hated unions. She's now apologizing for the post.
Don't like using that type of a word for anyone, because I don't hate anybody or anything. I believe in collective bargaining. I believe that we should be at the table, listening to each side. I believe in all of that.
Robbins also deleted posts about selling Canada to the U.S. and tariffs on Canadian goods. She says they were presented out of context. She's running against Ray Berthollet of the NDP and Liberal Stephen Reid. The by-election is on August 26th. Deep in western Manitoba's lush forest stands a group of Indigenous youth shaping their future. They're learning real-life, hands-on skills while also shaping and developing relationships. It's all about land-based education, training, and work opportunities. CBC Indigenous reporter Stefan Richard has that story.
This is the Outland Youth Employment Program. The 6-week industry-sponsored program offers Indigenous youth work, experience, and vocational training. Cheetah Cook is in her first year. The member of Cross Lake First Nation has big dreams.
I want to be an electrician, a journeyman electrician, so make some good money in that, and hopefully work a couple of years to get enough money so I can support myself and then all the people around me. I already have everything I want, and I just want to help other people because I know other people are struggling and they can use it more than I can.
OYEP participants have more than 15 training and certification program options during the 6 weeks.
being a second year is kind of the same as being a first year, but it just feels a lot more like home in a way.
Dorothy Dorian is in her second year as an OYEP ranger. She says her experience at OYEP helped her choose a career.
I want to become a herbalist when I'm older and go to college for ecology.
Neepan Cook has done it all.
I've worked in every role, so that would be from a ranger to a crew leader in training to a crew leader and now a supervisor. So right now I'm an undergraduate student, and once I graduate with my environmental studies degree, I plan to go to law school and become an environmental lawyer.
What did the three of them identify as their favorite part of the program? All three said, the people. Stephen Richard, CBC Indigenous, Winnipeg.
Riley's back in now, and some amazing programs for
kidding.
our youth these days. Hopefully they weren't outside for much of the weekend during a lot of that downpour. I know I got stuck in it along with probably many, many other people.
I know the block party last night got a bit wet.
Yes.
So.
Yes, that's okay. We're not made of sugar, right? We like to say.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we did see a couple of brief downpours in Winnipeg last night, but some measurable rain and excessive rain in parts of the west. That's where I'm going to start. Take a look at some of these numbers this is just from Sunday. Up until about 9:30 this morning, Minnetonka's just outside of Swan River getting 81 millimeters of rain. That was from the Manitoba Ag Station. Other parts of the Swan Valley, 30 to a little over 60 millimeters of rain. In Winnipeg, we kind of ranged up from 15 to about 26 millimeters, and elsewhere in southeastern Manitoba into the Red River Valley, about 15 to 20 millimeters. So it really depends on where you were, just how heavy some of that rain fell. As that little disturbance pushes off into northwestern Ontario, we're left with a bit of a ridge in behind that. And that, just like last week, we're going to do this all over again. It's going to warm our temperatures up midweek and then fuel a risk of thunderstorms by the time we get toward Wednesday, Thursday of this week, which I'll show you. So as we get into the morning hours on Tuesday, we will get some clearing, so partly cloudy sky overnight, but what this particular model is picking up is the potential for some fog through the overnight hours into the early morning. I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But things do clear out as we get into Wednesday. Then our next weather maker is this warm front, could trigger some thunderstorms first thing in the morning Wednesday as it starts to pass in parts of western and central Manitoba. And then in behind that, fairly unsettled and unstable air, which means that as we get Wednesday into Thursday, we have that chance of some showers or some thunderstorms. In Winnipeg, this is more of a Thursday event, but likely a Wednesday event for some, particularly the further west you are in the province. So all of that cloud cover, some excess moisture means a good recipe for some fog through the overnight hours. This takes us to 7 o'clock in the morning. Winnipeg, this forecast model suggesting visibility down to about 1 kilometer, looking at some figures 600 to 800 meters. Again, this is not fog everywhere, but certainly you could run into some patchy fog if you're out first thing in the morning, particularly the further west you are in the province. So keep that in mind for your morning commute as we get into your Tuesday. By the afternoon, though, look at some of these numbers. Up to 31 in Melita tomorrow afternoon. Brandon, 28 with some fog in the morning. 26 in Winnipeg and Thompson under a mix of sun and clouds. And then Brittany will crank up the heat a bit more into Wednesday with 29 degrees. And there's that chance of showers and some thunderstorms I was talking about as we head into Thursday.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, sometimes you just need to dance it out. How a post-game handshake turned into a good old East Coast kitchen party. More on that straight ahead.
So a bit of a dreary dog walk today, probably a little bit on the wet side if you were out at any point last night. Here's Poppy, eagerly checking out the weather before heading out and hoping for a little bit of a sunnier one. Thanks, Bonnie, for sending this picture in. Please keep sending your pups to talkback at cbc.ca. So, yes, a bit brighter. I mean, maybe a little bit more cloud cover still in the morning, but certainly as we get to the afternoon, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures above seasonal, 26 degrees into the afternoon. Long range looks like this. So there's that hot day I was talking about, a bit breezy, 29 degrees into the day on Wednesday, 25. Good chance we'll see some showers or some thunderstorms into Thursday. In behind that, just like last week, a cool down in temperatures toward the weekend. It is week 2 of the Canada Games in St. John's, and some athletes are maybe not bringing home a gold medal per se, but a gold memory.
Not so bad.
Yeah.
After Team PEI bested Team NL on the field, a familiar song came on, and some of the PEI players asked the hometown crowd to dance. The spontaneous dance-off is our daily lift.
At the end of the game, you shook hands. Tell me what happened next.
So the captain of PEI and some other players came up to us, and the song Ordinary Day was on, and they came over and was like, yeah, we should dance. And then we all got in a circle and we started dancing, and then people from Manitoba, Quebec, Saskatchewan came out, and it was a really good time.
It was like a kitchen party dance, basically, where we just all held hands, spun in a circle, and we were just all like moving to the music.
You knew that you were going to play Team PEI again today. What was the plan about dancing after this game?
I don't think we intended or had a plan on dancing, but after the game, it was a big moment. It was our last game, and the PEI girls came over and we all just started dancing again. It kind of happened so quickly.
I never experienced anything like that before in sports, and I play a good few sports. And no, it was definitely a memory to last a lifetime.
I don't know if you caught it. There was one player there with a walking boot or a dancing boot on there.
Nothing like a good old dance-off,
right,
to bring everybody together.
That's some good sportsmanship right there. That's what that is.
And of course the Manitobans got involved.
Right? Let's go Team Manitoba. Team Toba, here we go. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
It is.